Rev up your engines!
Valdevezo! Scotty, is it worth it flipping cars? Well, here's the thing. How are you going to do it? And what kind of a mindset you have? Because car flippers, they're buying a car at one price and then selling it at a higher price. Selling used cars is a dirty business to begin with. And if you're going to do that for a living, unfortunately, I know a lot of guys that have done it, and they started out with a good idea. Oh, I want to get good used cars for people, lotta. But what happens is, then greed takes over, and they start buying junkier cars at auctions and then selling them for as high as they can and hope that they last. And there are so many people out there that are trying to flip cars. There's always somebody that'll do it cheaper than you, so you won't make that much profit. So then in order to make profit, you'll do some sleazy deals like buy a car that you knew was wrecked or flooded and don't tell anybody about it and try to sell it. It's not a business I advise any honorable people to get into because it's not good karma, unless you were the type of guy that did it on the side for a little bit of fun, new cars, and you'd buy a car from somebody, say, that retired or from an estate and then polished it all up and sold it for a little profit, okay, but most of it turns into a dirty business. Top 10 says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on the 2017 Dodge Journey Pentastar V6 all-wheel drive with an automatic transmission? Not much. I certainly would not buy one. I work on enough Dodges to know that since Fiat took over, their quality's been going down further and further and further. Now, those Pentastar engines are better than they used to be. They had a lot of problems with the early ones, but still, I would not buy a Dodge that has either an automatic transmission or an all-wheel drive. I see too many of those things break and cost a fortune to repair as they age. If you really want to get something like that, my advice is lease a new one. Then when it's off lease, that's the end of it. You don't have to worry about repairs. You don't have to worry about it breaking down on you. And you'll pay whatever the lease is. You know exactly what you're going to lose. Because if you actually buy one and then want to get rid of it when it's 2-3 years old, you'll lose a lot more money than you paid lease on it. Eldon Lagre says, how much should I pay for head gasket work on a 2000 Cavalier 2.2? Me, I wouldn't pay anything. I'd junk the car. I wouldn't bother fixing it. Here's the problem with engine work. That's a 2.2 engine. They're notorious for having problems. You don't know if the head's warped, if the block's cracked, if the piston rods are bent. You don't know until that engine's all torn apart. Hardly anybody does good engine work anymore. Somebody could give you a quote for just a head gasket job. They don't know what's wrong with it until they take it all apart. And then they can start adding on and adding on. And in order to do a really good job, you got to strip the head, send it to a machine shop. They have to machine it. Then you got to readjust the valves, and all kinds of stuff needs to be done. And it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And a 2000 Cavalier is worth basically nothing. I personally wouldn't. I mean, if you got to keep the car, I'd rather go to a junkyard and get a low mileage used engine, put an engine in and try to fix that thing. El Casablancas. Scotty, how do you tell the difference between a head gasket that's bad or a piston crack? My O2 Accord burns oil. There's lots of tests that can be done. For a blown head gasket, the absolute best test is a leak block test. I've got a video how to tell if your head gasket's blown. You buy one of these little test tubes, put this blue fluid in. If it turns yellow, it means there's exhaust gas in the radiator, which means the head gasket's blown. Those kits cost about $35 or so. On Amazon, you can do them. That's the best test. If a piston's cracked, if it's cracked all the way through to the top, you can take out a spark plug and then you can get a borescope and you can look inside to see if it's cracked. And you could also, some of them have a reverse mirror you can stick in to look up to see if perhaps the valves are cracked. You can check those by looking at them. Randolph Palmore says, I bought a 10-year-old Chevy Cruze which has been in a minor flood and wreck. Is it a good idea to take a cross country on a family road trip through the desert mountains? Only if you want to end up in one of those horror movies where you're either in the mountains or the desert and your car breaks down and there's zombies living in radioactive caves, you know? That Cruze is one of the worst vehicles ever made, and that thing's been in a minor flood and wreck. No, I would not trust it. If you really want to go cross-country, rent a car. You know, they don't charge you for mileage anymore, so rent a car and put the mileage on a brand-new car that's dependable. I would never do it with that car. Julio Arajo says, Scotty, my wife was told the 3-year-old Toyota RAV4 needs belts. She went to get an oil change. Think she's getting ripped off? Kind of sounds like it. I've seen those belts go well over 100,000 miles. If she doesn't have that kind of mileage on it, all you got to do is get a flashlight, shine it on the belt, look at the grooves. They got all those grooves. They're serpentine belts. If they're not cracked and it doesn't make any noise, it's perfectly fine. They start squealing, yeah, then they're stretched and you got to buy another one. They're cracked, they're worn, you need to replace it. But if not, like I said, I've seen those things go 100,000 miles and they're still working fine. York, LNES, hey Scotty, my '04 Ranger's getting a small evap leak error. I changed the gas cap once and fixed it for a while, but it's happening again. Any suggestions? Did you use an OEM gas cap? Because if you went to any discount auto parts store and bought the cheapest one, a lot of times they just aren't any good. So I'd say just go buy a gas cap from the dealer first and see if that fixes. If it doesn't, those small leaks can be real stinkers to find. I, as a mechanic, have a smoke machine that costs 1,000 smackers with a gauge on it where I inject smoke and a scan tool that does bi-directional testing so I can test valves are working right. But a lot of times, if you want a wild guess, when they do have a small leak like that and it's not the gas cap, a lot of times it's an evap canister vent valve. You might just buy one and try that. That often fixes it. Lucas says, Scotty, how much is too much to pay for a first car? Depends on how much money you got and what you want to do. I mean, the first car I ever bought was an Opel. I paid $550 for it because a kid with a Jeep ran into it on the used car lot, and my father knew the guy and he wanted to get rid of it, so I got it for $550 and fixed the fender myself. And I drove that thing for like 8 years. It served me good. $550, and I sold it for $500. So it only cost me $50 for all those years. If you can find something like, say, a nice Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic used that's a little bit older, depends on just what you want to spend. Because it's a hard deal finding a good Toyota or Civic for, $1 or $2 grand. But if you got $5 grand to spend, you can usually find a good used one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.